My name is Anna Koenig. I was born in Poland, in the city named Białystok. The city of Białystok was the population by 120,000. Half of it was Jewish. It was quite a few Jewish synagogues and Jewish life around. I went to a public school. When I went to public school, I learned everything in the Polish language. When I came home, it was everything Jewish because I only had one grandmother, my father's mother, and she was a very religious person. As growing up in the city, we did not know too many bad things, but we did have a lot of anti-Semitism. Being in school, we were teased by all kind of things. It came before Easter time. It was horrible because they called us Jews, Christ killers. And you cannot explain to people if they were not educated, you know, what is right and wrong. It comes from home. And if anybody wants to teach anybody, the first thing you got to teach them not to hate. And you got to teach them we are born the same, we live the same, and we go to the same place. People have to get along with one another. It's because one believes a little bit different. It doesn't matter. It's the the people. You love your neighbor. Try to get along. If you cannot get along, leave them alone. Go your own way. Now, I graduated a school in Poland. And in 1939, the Russian came into our town. We lived under the Russian for 2 years. And I learned the Russian language. While Russia was attacked with the German, they bombed our city. Now the German came in 1939 and they stayed for about 10 days. And the first thing what they did, they went in, they took a dozen of youngsters, took them someplace in a cellar, and they mutilated them. We did not know till they left. When they left the German, the Russian came in. And under the Russian occupation, when you lived and obeyed, they didn't bother you. But when the German came in the second time, in 1941, what they did the first thing, we welcomed them because according to our parents, they were educated people, they didn't bother anybody. They went and threw gasoline on the main temple, and whoever passed by or whoever they could catch, they threw in 2,000 live people in the burning synagogue. And after this, the fire got out of hand. And we lived not far from that big synagogue. I felt smoke. I don't know why. And I turned around to my father and I said, I'm not going to be burned alive. And we went across the street. There was a big building, a brick building. So many people can't concentrate in that building. My father took the whole family. I came from a family of 4 children. I was the second to the oldest, and I had a younger sister and a younger brother. We went into that building, and for a while was okay. And then we felt again the smoke, and raging and all kind of things. And again I said to my father, I'm not going to be burned alive. I do not know what drove me to it. And I says, let's get out of here. As we got out of the door, a woman was standing and said, halt. That means stop. And while she said it, usually we had German came over and they would take you and throw you in the fire. Somehow she let me pass and my father went with me. We went on a street. We ran to the end of the street. It was like a backyard, you know. There was a building which you walked in through one street, came out on the other street. And my father said to me, please stay here, wait till I bring the family. And he did it. He brought the family, and as we were all of us down there, we wanted to go to an aunt of mine, which lived several streets away. As we walked out, and being a youngster, I was only 14 years old, we had to walk over dead bodies. The German already killed. We were walking over corpse, and there was not a nice, you know, for children to have to walk over corpse and think to run away. We came to my aunt's house. The whole family got together. My mother in this city, there were 6 of them. 5 sisters and 1 brother. They came from a family of 9. 2 of them were in United States, 1 was in Russia, and 6 of them were in Artan. And over there, we were quite a few hours over there. They came again and told us, we have to leave the building because the fire is taking over. The whole city was burning. It was already dark. During the night we ran away. And, you know, a whole family, you couldn't take nothing with you. It's only the clothes what you had on your back. You ran, and my mother remembered she has a cousin, and we ran over there to her house. We stayed in my mother's house, in my mother's cousin's house for about a month. In between, they took my father to labor in a camp. And it was very difficult because you had no money, you had nothing to exchange, and a family has to eat. While I went to visit my father in that camp where they took him, I talked to him and I keep talking to him. And I says, let's go for a walk. And we walked and walked, and my father followed me and he left that camp. We were together again. After 4 weeks being in that place, they created a ghetto. What is a ghetto? They took a couple streets and with barbed wire, with anything they could get it, they wired up and put us in like in a cage. People came from all over, but you had nothing to exchange, to get food. You couldn't work, you couldn't do nothing. It was not easy. We stayed in the ghetto, we tried to do the best we could. My older sister was doing some sewing because she was going to school being a dressmaker. So she did some repairs. My father was a mechanic, he tried to do something. We tried to work. They created shops. They confiscated from people who had sewing machines, and they created a shop. And I was working in a shop which it was making parts of German uniforms, cuffs, pockets, collars, all kind of things, for working a whole week, 40 hours. You got only 1 loaf of bread. You know, a family cannot exist at that alone. But and we didn't have clothing. We had one pair of shoes. When my sister came from work, she exchanged with me. I put on the shoes and I went to work. And we did the best we could, anything just to survive. I used to go out because I was short, small. I smuggled through. My grandmother lived in a house near a running water. And over there was a lot of empty lot. Through where it was gated and things, I used to smuggle through. We digged underneath and go through on the other side. To go on the Aaron side, hopefully, maybe we can get something, buy something, or exchange something. On my small body, I carried in a lot of things. We tried whatever to survive. Many times I have seen things. Before I had to go out in the Aaron side, a boy tried to go out. He got a bullet in his head. We had to pull him in. And they took him away. He was dead. It didn't stop us from going outside. We went out. We had to bring some boards, some coal, anything we could find to cook a meal. And we lived in a very tight quarters. My grandmother lived in that place for many, many years. And it was only a small bedroom, a living room, and a kitchen. But normally my grandmother lived with my grandfather in an end. We moved in, it was 6 of us, plus my aunt got married and she had a husband and a baby and his parents. And we all squeezed in the quarters. Because we didn't have enough beds, they used to take 2 chairs put together. That was my bed. That's how I slept. In ghetto, because the conditions were so sick, we got sick, we got the typhus. And we didn't have decent food, nourishment to eat. My father tried. He went to his sister's, he got some pieces material and tried to exchange for a loaf of bread or to be able to make a soup or something. My mother had a sister which for 12 years didn't have no children. In ghetto, she conceived and she had twins. I used to go and help her with the babies. And my little cousin was Rachel, and I used to play with her. I went with her for 2 reasons, to help my aunt and because I got a bowl of soup. So, the soup what my mother cooked, normally the children were hungry. My mother distributed to the children. And I could see she was getting thinner and thinner. So when I went to my aunt, my mother had a bowl of soup for her. Human nature is peculiar. People cannot visualize how we survived and what we did. Then they decided in the ghetto to make an aktie. What is an aktie? They told us they were going to take so many people. We knew because we knew somebody in the Jewish Federation over there. And we went in hiding. What was in the hiding? We went in a basement. And the door, they were covered up with a china cabinet. They nailed it through. And we got in through the china cabinet. We slid down to the basement. It was around 40 of us in that basement. There were a couple children. You know, children cry at all kind of times. And especially when we heard over our heads German boots. Soldiers were walking in and looking in the houses where people were. 2 of the children, they were smothered with little pillows to keep them quiet, not to hear that people are hiding in the basement. After a while, They got the amount of people they needed. Life resumed in the ghetto. The same what it was. Poverty, hunger. People were dying on the streets. They did awful. They were hanging people, showing us that if you won't behave, it's going to happen to you. We lived again around 6 months. August the 16th, 1943, they started again, and they liquidated our city. The city was burning from all four quarters. And I was with my aunt holding little Rachel. People were pushing each other and try to imagine around 60,000 people. They try and push her out from the city to get out of the city. Nobody knew where or what. And I was by then 16 years old. I was holding a year-old baby. I got tired. I couldn't walk. I have seen a buggy, a horse with a buggy, and I tried to hold on. I was sitting like just halfway and holding the baby for my life. They chased us out of the city. We came out in Pietraszów, the name was. Try visualize 60,000 people in a circle. They're all were standing, but people cannot stay 24 hours. So, at night when somebody would sit down, Germans came over and hit you with the rifles. And they did all kind of things. And the next morning, we did not know what's going on. They just came and said, one goes right, one goes left. And I was separated from my family. I have never seen them again. I came to that Pietraszów and saw my aunt, and they took Rachel. And I met my uncle. And I did not know what's going on because everybody, families were torn apart. They took me in the right side. They took us to trains, and we did not know nothing about it. By the train, I met Rachel's father, which was holding Rachel, and I. We were together in the trains. They took us for 3 days in the trains. No food, no water, not to go to the washroom. The conditions were horrible. People who were older than me understood a little bit more. And if they had babies, and if they could help it, they tried to take a pillow and do what they can to tie up to the baby and throw her out from the cattle train. It was a cattle train. They broke the cattle train, the window, but they did not know. On the roofs of the train, soldiers were standing. And if anybody pushed out a baby, the parents thought that maybe somebody will get the baby and the baby will survive. When they pushed out the baby, the soldier shot the baby. And for 3 days like that, they brought us to Lublin. Lublin was a place, a madhouse. And I was holding little Rachel because they took men separate and women separate. And I didn't have no food. I didn't have nothing to give. Somehow my uncle got away from the group and came to me and said to me, let Rachel down. Save yourself. Maybe one of us will survive to tell the world what they did with us. To this day, I always see little Rachel. Over there in Lublin, I met my father's 2 sisters with my aunt's youngest child. The older one they took away, the youngest one. And they gave him poison, and I did not know. and I saw the foam coming from the mouth. Then they start taking us as groups. They took us from over there, Lublin. They took us to Majdanek. They was walking few kilometers. They took us there and they put us in a corral. Again, a lot of people commit suicide. They cut their throat, they cut their wrists, and we did not know. At night we smelled the burning flesh. In the morning, they came and told us we're going to take a shower. When they took us to a shower, we did not know if it's going to be water or gas. And they took us in a place to strip nude. Try and visualize a 16-year-old stripping nude, have to walk around soldiers nude. They took us in, we took the shower. When we came out from the shower, they gave us not our clothing, but clothing 3-4 sizes bigger than ours. And then they checked us. Any place a body has a cavity, they checked us to looking for hidden gold or things like that. In Majdanek, we were over there for about 10 days. There was already, in Poland, the nights were cold already, and it was freezing. They did not give us no blankets or no pillows. We were laying like sardines. They put us out on preaches. I over there met an aunt of mine with a little boy, and we stayed together. Then they started taking people out for work. In the morning, early in the morning, they took us for a pill. It was cold. You were shivering. And we did not know what they're doing. All of a sudden, they wanted to select 150 women. We did not know for what or when. It turned out to be that they selected 150 women, beautiful women, in our city, Białystok, but somebody made a mix-up, so they had to select again. They asked who knows how to sew, who knows how to knit. I always was handy in that. I raised my hand. I don't know why, what reason they selected me. They took again us in trains and took us to Blizin. It was not easy. Anything what I tell you, this is just a percentage. In Blizin we came in, it was a camp. Men were separate, women. From the all people which they selected, they sent us. In Majdanek were 3,000 women from Mein Kampf. The 150, from the 150 who survived the camps remained alive. The rest perished. Everybody perished. In Blizin, they took us to barracks, and it was winter time already, cold. The food what they gave us is they gave us a slice of bread in the morning, a copy herbal tea, rumyanik, and at night, dinner time, they gave us a bowl of soup. If we found a potato, we were lucky. That's how we survived for a number of years being in camp, because they did not give us any more. We did not even have 300 calories a day. If you could not manage to get something extra, you would not survive, because a lot of people were drinking and the bodies swelled up. In Blizin, I went to work in a place making quilts, because I know how to sew all the time. And the owner, they were a couple, they never had children, and she got a liking to me. And we had to take, like they sent in, they collected pillows, blankets, all kind of things. take off the covers. And those covers, sometimes there were 2, 3 covers on one pillow and on the blankets. So I had to learn. I turned into one I hidden. And that hidden one I was able to exchange for a portion of bread. And you did what you could. I worked for a while over there. Afterwards, I used to go to work at night in the kitchen. I worked 8 hours, came back, then went to work the night in the kitchen, the next day to work, to get something extra, because you could not survive from what they gave you. And everybody tried to save their life. When I worked in the kitchen, I got a piece of carrots, I got a potato broiled in and broiled it, or something, anything you could find it. You even ate pillows, anything just to put in the stomach. Working in the bleaching, and that woman who was teaching me how to survive, she did not make it. Her husband survived. I was doing washing and things for him, so he gave me something extra. I caught the typhus. And by that time, I already worked in knitting factory. They were knitting scarves, hats, and things, because I was always handy in that type of work. I was so sick, and I lay down, and the girls covered me up. And after this, I already didn't care. They took me to the hospital. 3 days, to this day, I do not know what went on. You didn't care already. Anyway, I survived bleaching after 11 and a half months in bleaching, because the front was getting closer. They took us again in cattle trains. They took us to Auschwitz. Going to Auschwitz, you know, a human has to go in the washroom. We were in the cattle trains. They had a little can which people used to urinate. And when the cattle train was moving, they spilled out. They thought that we thought that the train is already moving, and they tried to spill it. And they must have accidentally do something on a soldier or what. They opened the door, and whoever they could, with a rifle they were hitting. I got hit in my left leg, and my foot swelled up like a balloon. When I arrived in Auschwitz, I wouldn't dare go to the doctor, because there was right away they would take you to the hospital, to the crematorium. In Auschwitz, we were about 5.5 months. We worked over there to regulate the body of water, Wisla. When I used to come back, the whole body, because the soles already were worn out and everything, it used to freeze to my bottom of my feet. I used to cry when the feet used to fall off. To this day, I suffer with my feet all my life because of that. Once a week in Auschwitz, on Friday, Mengele used to check us. We stayed in line, he checked. If he saw the ribs, then you were not good for working anymore. Then he put you the other side, and they took you to the oven. After over there, surviving that, the front was getting closer in Auschwitz. They took us in cattle trains again. They took us to the camp Chopau. That was in Germany in the mountains. We called it the hotel because it was above the factory, and at least it was not in barracks, and we had a washroom where to go, and we had cold running water. But the conditions were horrible. I do not know why. With the girls, what I was there, we used to sit with the girls, and I told them, I don't know about you, but I know I will survive and I will get married, and I told them what my life is going to be like. When they were bombing Germany, the Germans used to lock us on the lock and key, and they used to run away. But later on, towards the end, they took us already with them. But you couldn't run no place. It was mountains. You didn't know the area. You didn't know nothing. When things were getting hectic, they took us from Chopau to the Reisenstadt in the cattle trains. In the cattle trains, a lot of people, which normally takes 6 hours, it took him a whole week. Many people died in the cattle trains. We had to push away the bodies, and they did not give us no food or nothing. When they brought us to the Reisenstadt, we were too weak already. We fell down on our knees. And in the Reisenstadt, they prepared for us some soup. If you took it easy and took a little bit at a time, you made it. If some people grabbed and swallowed it, it's like the inside burst. And many of them were casualty after liberation. In the Reisenstadt, sure they showed. Red Cross never showed up to us to check us. When the Red Cross came in the Reisenstadt, they showed them colored water. Stop it. Go ahead.
Okay, Sam.
In the Reisenstadt, they gathered, I believe, about 40,000 people in the Reisenstadt. And we did not know what they intended to do. The Reisenstadt was a place, was a prehistorical place. They had caves over there. And those caves were prepared to get everybody, the people, they brought it into the Reisenstadt together and blow them up. But one guy, a German, he did not want to be caught by the Russian or by the Americans. He went to the Red Cross and told them about it. So they made an offensive and they liberated the Reisenstadt earlier. And the people who they liberated in the Reisenstadt, how many survived there? In the Reisenstadt we were for a while, and at least over there they took us in a room. We had a bed, and we didn't get too much food over there, so you had to go and create your own things. I went with some guys, we went to the farm and tried to bring some food. My husband was liberated but 9 kilometers from the Reisenstadt, and he went to look for some Jewish survivors because he was in an international camp. And that's how I met him. And from the Reisenstadt on, a whole group of us, traveled to go back to Poland to see who survived. And I met my husband there, and we are together for many, many years. We are going to celebrate this year our 60th anniversary. And we got married in Poland. We could hardly not even get a rabbi, a friend of ours, who had smiches of Rabbonim. He married us, and we went afterwards. We went and smuggled through the borders again to go to the German place. I did not want to remain in Poland because we came to Poland, we came to Lodz, we stayed in Lodz. I went out to the market to buy some food, bread, grocery, anything, because They didn't have the supermarkets like we have it here in the States. A punk comes over to me and says to me, "You mean they didn't kill you all yet? I thought they killed you all." So my husband gave him the knee. And he would remember if he's alive. Then an old witch comes over and says to me, "Why are you sticking up for a Jew?" He says, "Old witch, I'm a Jew. I just came from camp." And because while we were in Poland, we traveled to Białystok, and we had to travel on the roof of the train because we had no money, it was not available things, we went through a lot. And this is how we smuggled through back to the German part, where we were under the Americans, and from over there we applied to emigrate. We wanted to go to Israel, but each time we had to go to Israel, something happened. And so we got the papers to go to the States. My husband had an uncle in New York, and I had an uncle in Chicago, and we came to the United States. In the United States, we raised a family, we have 2 children, we have 5 grandchildren, we already have 2 great-grandchildren. And at least we survived to tell the world. Thank you for listening to me in